Hello and welcome to the Investing Bros. I am Tshroom. Today I'm going to be joined by Crux. We're going to be doing something a little fun, a little unique. We're going to be hunting down altcoins in real time. What are some great coins to buy as Bitcoin is going sideways? Do have some bullish news and some interesting developments from the IRS. We'll be getting all to that after the intro here. Let's get it. Heck yeah. How we doing, Crux?
Hey, what's going on, Tshroom? Sorry, guys, y'all get Pixel Crux again. I'm not back at my home station, which kind of unfortunately sucks, but I'm still here, able to give you the alpha. And let's do this thing, Tshroom.
And you're in Dallas, Texas, am I right?
D-Town. Yes,
Very
sir.
nice. Very
Let's go.
nice. Go
How are you doing,
Cowboys.
Tshroom? Hey, it's a rough year for us, but hey, the Texas Longhorns are doing, pretty good, so
There you go. I'm
yeah.
doing great. I'm doing better than I deserve, Crux. Like I was telling Smay yesterday, I've got my new necklace here, sporting
Bling
Florida,
bling.
the best state in the union, and we're having some fun. We're having some fun. So I'm doing great. Bros, today's going to be a little bit of a unique show. It's a Saturday show, so our Saturday shows are a little bit unconventional, most of the time anyway. I'm seeing some awesome bros that are jumping in here. Three-piece says game over. No alt season. Uh-oh. Got some doubters.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
JR Block said, let's get it. Very cool. The Kid Coleman dropped a rocket launching into space, and Servando Estrada dropped the Tshroom bros in the chat. You gotta love it. Tony Rojas, sparing no emojis here, said, yo, what up, bros? Got the goat, the flame. I don't think there's any emojis left in the
Right.
world of emojis after that. So let's see. Rushing Bull said, please let there be another alt pump. I can't take this anymore. Well, here's why we are doing today's show. We actually had a cool bro in the Discord drop some alpha that we've mentioned. This isn't going to be, breaking news to anybody who's been experienced in trading and investing. But for those of you especially who are newer, we had some really good alpha dropped in the Discord today. I'll show you how you guys can get access to our exclusive Discord for free here in just a second. But let's get into this comment here. It said, Bitcoin update from Jaworski. He said, Bitcoin is starting to establish a range between 99.6, that's 99,600, to 92,620 levels. So there's some levels there from Jaworski talking about a range that Bitcoin is in. Over the coming days, price could potentially trade within the range levels. If that happens, it will eventually benefit altcoins as a stable Bitcoin will be helpful for altcoins to rally higher. However, keep in view that strength above 99,600 would lead to a bullish breakout. Meanwhile, any selling below 92,650 would result in a slide lower into the accumulation zone of 92,000, 88,000 levels. So there you go. That's Jaworski's kind of input there, his alpha in the Discord. Now, how can you all get access to that Discord and posts like that? Because, you tune into YouTube, and Tim and Crux and myself, along with Smay, we're delivering alpha every day on YouTube, but the chat never stops in Discord. In order to sign up for our free Discord, all you got to do is go down to the link down below this video right here that you're already watching and go to Discord right here. This is the free link, right? And we have paid memberships here that you'll learn about later, but the free link just to get a little bit of a taste is right there down below. Well, let's jump over to the Bitcoin charts here. We'll bring Crux back in on the convo here in just a second because we're going to do some live analysis of altcoins. But first, let's talk about what Jaworski was talking about here with Bitcoin. So Jaworski he's gone ahead and identified an even tighter range based on the range that we're already in. That would be here just below 100,000. And then he just kind of recycled the range here from the low end, from the support, right here putting us right around 90, that low end, 92,800, give or take. And that's right around the levels that he was discussing there. So what does this mean, though? What is true is that when this is moving when Bitcoin moves sideways, oftentimes this is a launch pad for altcoins to pump higher. Now, before we get into the altcoin segment, I want to round out a little bit more Bitcoin TA. The first thing that I'm noticing here, we talked about this yesterday as well, is that Bitcoin is now trading below the midline of the Bollinger Band here. What is a Bollinger Band? You don't need to know too much about it, but it is the 20-day moving average. And when we look back at the history of the 20-day moving average, the recent history, you'll notice that the price has not spent very much time below that 20-day moving average. So as you can see here, this is an instance where it has the present, and then going back, you can see the last time that we spent significant time and closed entire candle bodies was all the way back here in October. Okay, so what does that mean? It means Bitcoin is cooling off significantly. Another kind of hearkening back to a previous bit of trading price data is actually reminiscent on the hyperwave. So take a look at the levels that we achieved back here on the 23rd, just before Christmas. These levels, and this one slipped by me, but I saw an X post about this, so I wanted to bring it to your attention. They were actually referring to the RSI. The hyperwave is a modified, more efficient RSI, in my opinion, from LuxAlgo. But check it out. So we got to the level of 30 and some change, 30.8, let's call it. The last time we were at 30.8 was back here, September 9th of this year. And if we click through and see where that price takes us, you can see, go back to it, September 9th, the price that we were at was $55,800. So call it $60,000 per Bitcoin. What this means is that the momentum oscillators have reset, right? This means that the next leg up is ready. We are no longer in this overbought phase, right? And Bitcoin was overbought through this period of ascension after the big important electoral outcome that we got here in the United States. That is no longer the case. The RSI, in this case, the hyperwave, is now back down below the 50 level. And I will point out, and I'll go to the full screen here for the hyperwave, we are actually getting a little bit of candy down here. So this is really, really interesting to see. That's obviously very bullish to start to see reversal candy. This means that this hyperwave could be potentially ready to spring up. But that would spoil our plans for altcoin season. So until then, until we actually get a convincing reversal, right now we're under conflicting reversal dots. We've got this reversal dot that just indicated a reversal back down for momentum. But we also have this reversal dot that's indicating a general reversal for momentum in general. Okay. Also notice that the money flow is to the downside on the daily oscillator matrix from LuxAlgo. So what does this all mean? It all means the Bitcoin is likely to remain sideways. Back in September 9th, which is we're comparing this bit of data that we're in now, the live price, the live formation, we're comparing that to early September. What happened from then? Well, there was continued movement. Yes, there was general bullish movement that marked one of the bottoms in this downtrending channel, right? It marked one of the bottoms. It actually marked one of the lowest candlestick closes during that period. And then from there, we would basically go higher until we had a front run explosion, and then we had the real explosion to the upside. Okay, so the thing that we want to take away, though, is that we stayed inside this channel immediately after the RSI was quote unquote reset, right? You don't want to put too much, you don't want to try to be too exact with saying when the RSI has reset, but basically when it gets down below the 50 line and continues lower and even resets down below the 30 line, that's usually the 20 line, on the oscillator matrix. That's usually a pretty good indicator that you are now reset from a momentum standpoint. We are close to that here, so this could potentially go lower. Obviously, that is always in the cards for Bitcoin here at these levels, pushing an all-time high. But overall here, it's looking pretty good. All right, so let's go ahead. We've done a little bit of Bitcoin TA. Look, if you're looking for more in-depth Bitcoin TA, you're saying that was not enough, not nearly enough. Don't worry, because on Monday we will have our TA expert. You thought I was good there with TA? First of all, welcome to trading, because I'm not that good. But second of all, we will have our TA trading expert in on Monday, and he'll be able to go much more in depth into details of the charts to help create a clear picture for traders to be able to look at and make some decisions based upon. All right, so the thesis here is intact. Bitcoin, there's a strong argument, will remain sideways at least through maybe the first 2 weeks of January. And as long as it remains in that tight channel, right? We talked about the broader channel here, the orange lines, and then this lower orange line is kind of the extreme of what I expect Bitcoin to drop down to. But then you see these white lines further in, right? That as long as we stay below in these lines, there's a very good chance, an increasing chance, that altcoins will pump. So it only took me 11 minutes to get to the thesis. I actually don't think that was too bad to lay it all out for you. Lay out, the Bitcoin altcoin dynamics theory. Crux, did I leave anything out about that? Or should we try to take another swing at explaining the Bitcoin altcoin dynamic?
Yeah, there may be some people, including, so I think it was like 2 weeks ago, we talked about the difference between how you think of an alt season and how I think. And it's so subjective. Like some people think like you can have multiple alt seasons within a single bull run. And then other people think, like there's one 4-year cycle and then you're at this portion of, the alt season and there's no going forward or back. There's no right or wrong answer. But what I've kind of noticed, like as you're going through a bull market, at least from my perspective, is I see that Bitcoin will pump, it'll go sideways. Sometimes it'll retrace, but then all the alts start pumping when it's going sideways. And I think that's what almost everyone does agree with, as in what is an alt season. So we know Bitcoin pumps. What I've seen from this bull market is Solana and Sui are going to be the next to pump. Is that going to change? I don't know. We're in this weird period of, a good amount of sideways action. But if something's, not broke, don't try and fix it, So Solana and Sui have been getting the lion's share of what goes into, the overall crypto market cap after Bitcoin pumps and start going sideways. Next, we have specific niches such as memes. I've been very vocal about, I think 10% of someone's portfolio should be in meme coins as a whole. Most of it should be in the higher caps like Doge, SHIB, or Pepe, right? Don't YOLO most of your portfolio in low cap memes. But I think it is fair to say that memes have outperformed every other niche this bull market. And then moving on from memes, you have real world assets, something like Ondo, where we've been very bullish on in this bull market. We know Mantra, and just the tokenization of assets is so huge in crypto. When you're talking about use cases, do not sleep on real world assets. And there's a couple other ones, as you move down from Bitcoin and then you start going into decentralized exchanges, liquidity plays. Then you have AI, L1s, oracles. Don't even sleep on gaming and NFTs. They have not been very bullish this bull market, but I think everyone's portfolio should have exposure to all of these niches, but the ones that have proven to be the most successful, such as Bitcoin, should be the majority of your portfolios.
Gotcha. Absolutely. And so
and I just saw that. Mhm.
Yeah. So just to summarize, when Bitcoin goes sideways, altcoins have the opportunity to pump. Not all of them, and not all at the same time, right? But here's kind of the way to think about this. When Bitcoin is sideways, people are looking for traders and investors are looking for gains. When Bitcoin's sideways, there's no gains to be had there, right? Unless you're trading a very low time frame. Okay. So what do investors and traders like to do? They like to go further down the risk curve where there is still volatility. And that is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. When they're seeking out alpha, seeking out volatility, they create the volatility in the alpha. You don't need to understand all those terms and get into the nitty-gritty of that, but just understand when Bitcoin's sideways, altcoins have the opportunity to pump, and it's not all altcoins. So now Crux and I are going to demonstrate live how to identify which of the altcoins are going to pump. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. Crux is going to, I'll go ahead and show kind of the super low IQ method of doing this, and then Crux can give you all a little bit more of an in-depth method. All right, and by super low IQ, this might look still complicated to you, but once you've been in crypto for a while, this is kind of the most obvious way of doing it. By the way, this is just a Solana chart. All right, so this is how you do it. You go over to the website called coinmarketcap.com. All right, and then this is where you would go to the front page. You should see Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then stablecoin, Tether, and then XRP, right? We want to, instead of organizing the altcoins by market cap, right, which you can do here by clicking this, you can sort the data by market cap of the lowest 100, and then which would be Axie Infinity, Neo, and Core come up. You can you can click it again, and then you can reorganize it by the default setting, which is the top market caps. All right. You can also organize this by price, which is probably the least useful way of organizing this information. You can also organize it by supply, circulating supply, which is really interesting as well. But this is where we want to spend our time here, organizing the top 100 altcoins. Let me make sure it's 100. You have to scroll down here to the bottom. Yes, indeed, it is 100. You can verify right here. You can also toggle to 50 or 20. But we want to identify which of the top 100 altcoins, meaning the market has determined that these are the most valuable cryptos out there. These include Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the stablecoins. Which one of these has had the worst 60 days, 90 days, 24 hours, 7 days? It's these altcoins that, from a value trading and value investing standpoint, are statistically the most likely to pump, right? Because what goes up must come down. The same rule applies in investing. What goes down must come up. Now, it's not 100% of the time true, because you have project busts like Terra Luna and SafeMoon, right? There's been projects that went down and did not come back up. FTT token comes to mind from the FTX Shrubakle, right? So it's not 100% true all the time. But let's go. But statistically, it is pretty darn close to being true. So let's go ahead and take a look here at what CoinMarketCap is telling us are some good buys right now. All right, in anticipation of a potential altcoin season here very soon. So over the last 7 days, we can see that the top performers have been Virtuals Protocol, BitGet token, Gate token, GT, Curve, and FTT token. That's funny that comes back up. Okay, and just as a quick disclaimer, stay the heck away from FTX token. This is a completely manipulated, volatile token that you just don't have any business getting involved in. It doesn't matter how sophisticated you think you are. Do not get involved with it. Okay, so moving along here. Then what I want to do is, I don't want to see the top gainers. I actually want to see the top losers from this point in time. So that would yield Phantom, Ondo, Athena, Sui, Hyperliquid, and Aptos, Crow, Kai, and Runes Thorchain, right? Then you can keep going, Maker, Chainlink, but now you're getting into only single-digit losses over a 7 day period of time. Okay, so of this list, the one thing I'm noticing, just being an active participant in the crypto markets, is all of these coins, or especially Ondo, Athena, Sui, Hyperliquid, and Crow, I know that all of these were pumping recently, and that is why they're, what goes up must come down. And that's why they're on this list, the top of this list of the biggest losers of the last 7 days. Okay. So what I would say is, of this list, this is actually encouraging, because these are not only losers right now that have the chance to pop during this next altcoin pump, but they're also pretty solid projects. Of this list, I'd say Phantom and Aptos and Hyperliquid are probably the weakest from a project standpoint, but a lot of people would say Phantom's actually pretty solid, and Aptos is pretty solid. Hyperliquid seems to have had a lot of hype recently. I don't know enough about the project to say whether or not it's good from like a tokenomics standpoint. But then Maker and Chainlink obviously are going to be very strong projects too. Okay, but that's the 7 day. And again, this is the low IQ way of doing this. So if you're a more experienced investor and trader and you're rolling your eyes like Tshroom, this is so easy, I understand. However, this is the way that a lot of people just get started identifying which altcoins to buy and to sell in anticipation of a potential altcoin pump. All right, now let's do it by 60-day, right? We're going from 7-day to 60-day now. And now you're seeing some much bigger losers, right? This is a different class of losers. You've got Dog Whiff Hat, Rune, Jupiter, Tau, Stacks, Aptos. There it is again. So this is the first time that we've seen a duplicate on these lists. Aptos, Helium, Tia, that's a stable coin, I believe. Let me make sure. Yes, that's a stable coin. That's a stable coin. That's a stable coin. That's a stable. All the stable coins, and then yeah. So all of these are the losers there. Okay. So Aptos, in my opinion, is emerging to be kind of one of the leaders here. Let me toggle back to the 7-day, because I think Helium was somewhat high on the list as well. Yes. So Helium and Aptos, I would say, could potentially be altcoins that are ready to pop. In terms of they're down not just in the last 7 days, but also in the last 60 days. Okay. Now let's look at the 90 days. And now we have a new class of losers, right? These are coins that over the last 90 days have actually lost. But before we look at the losers, let's look at the winners, right? Virtuals has had an insane run over the last 90 days, up almost 7,000%. Hyperliquid is not a close second, but it is second here, up 775%. BitGet token up above 600%. And Pudgy Penguins token, the one that we talked about, I think it was sometime last week, up 600%. Hedera up 360%. Stellar up just under 250%. XRP not too far behind. Okay, so this gives you an idea of winners, and these are ones that, in my opinion, unless there's something special going on with the project, right? Because of how overbought they are, this means they're overbought, right? If they're up a lot, triple digits of percentage over the last 90 days, that's overbought, okay? Unless there's something special going on, like a token burning or an upgrade that's coming out or some kind of celebrity endorsement or some kind of marketing campaign, right? There's a statistically lower chance for these to pop during this next altcoin pump. Now, will they pump? Will they potentially move higher, not lower, during the pump? Yes. But it is my opinion that it's actually the biggest losers over the 90 days, 60 days, and 70 days that will see a pump. All right, so let's go through this list. This is the losers over the last 90 days. Starts with Caspa. Then we get to Arweave, Immutable X, Tia, Celestia, FET, okay? And then you get another AI token, Tau. And then you get Stacks, Dog Whiff Hat, Helium, Say, Thorchain, Jupiter, Injective, Maker, Near Protocol, and then you get into your stables. So of this, Helium emerges yet again. Okay, so Helium comes back into the equation, and then we get our first emergence of Caspa. Okay, so of this list, we have essentially Helium, Aptos that have emerged more than one time across these lists, and Maker you could technically throw back in there because it was down on the 7-day as well. But in this way, hopefully this has been clear to you all, we have now compiled a watch list of coins that have been down, right? And again, going kind of come from the principle of what goes up must come down. You invert that. What goes down must come up, right? If it's in the top 100, that means that it has a market cap. Let's see. Go back over to my screen. It has a market cap of at least $1 billion, right? So the lowest project on this list has a market cap of at least $1 billion, which tells me that the market is not bearish on any of these coins. It's bullish. The market likes all of these coins because you may be very new to crypto and you're thinking, well, how many altcoins are there? At this point, what is it? Probably north of 500,000 altcoins because anybody can make them, especially on Solana. It's very cheap and easy to make altcoins, tokens, variants on a lot of these L1s that have kind of positioned themselves as being very cheap to do so. So all of this distilled into, now we have a watch list, Aptos and Helium. And it wasn't like I planned this. We literally just in live time here at 11:10 or 11, 12 launched into this analysis. So, Crux, I want to throw it over to you. That was kind of the low IQ way of a coming to a watch list of what coins could pump in an altcoin pump potential here that we're seeing as a result of Bitcoin being sideways. I want you to take it from there. Tell me why maybe those aren't the best ones to buy, or if there were some on that list that we should put the statistics to the side and say, actually, those are going to pump more because of reason X, Y, or Z.
So first of all, I like those projects that you did list right there. Earlier in the stream, I did ask the community, and it's a pinned comment right now that says, go ahead and post what you guys are thinking about buying on this dip. And I just want to read some of these comments because I think there's some very good options here. You have a couple people mentioned Fetch. You had Arkham. You have Turbo. You have Mudang. I see some meme coins. I see Link right here, Phantom. Some of the plays that you called out, XRP. I see Brett. I see a lot of people in the community that, they have their eyes set on these great projects. Caspa, someone just said, jokingly, Caspa's a stable coin because we know this thing's moved sideways for a while. But I'm super bullish on Caspa. Wispy, shout out. He says Cardano. Very bullish on Cardano. So something that I like to look at as an analyst is the fear and greed index, right? If you look at CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, these are two different platforms. We just saw Tshroom walk us through how to use CoinMarketCap. I personally use CoinGecko, and I'll show you, and I'll walk through you. I'll show you in a second on how I walk through it. But here on CoinMarketCap, they have something called the Fear and Greed Index. You can see this on other platforms. There's websites built. There's Twitter profiles that use this. But the Fear and Greed Index is something I use for the overall macro look of where we are in the market, right? We're at like a neutral stance, and it shows that within the past 24 hours, we haven't even moved up or down $2,000 in volatility on a six-figure asset called Bitcoin. So very sideways price action, very neutral. And I would expect that at a time like this where people are with their families and not thinking so heavily on crypto. So fear and greed, we're sitting neutral. I like to say buy in the fear, sell in the greed. 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, the fear and greed was extreme greed. For well over a month, it said extreme greed. And that was the first time in a very long time that we had the daily, the weekly, the monthly, all in extreme greed. And that's when Bitcoin was at $108,000. So fear and greed, if you're looking at taking profits during a bull run, it's my number one indicator on determining if it's a good time to take profits, because if the daily, the monthly, and the weekly are all in extreme greed, I can almost guarantee that we're going to have a pullback, which we did. So moving on from the fear and greed.
Really quick, okay. Crux, before you go, the Bitcoin fear and greed specifically, I think that one might be for crypto in general. This one here is for Bitcoin, and this one is still in the greed, right? Which we could do an entire show on why the Bitcoin chart is actually still very, very bullish. That's actually how Crux and I opened the planning session before the stream today. I was just looking at the Bitcoin chart, being like, man, people feel like this is bearish, but this is actually extremely bullish. Whenever a chart has a big explosion, what goes up usually comes down. The fact that we went up, kept going up, putting in higher highs, and now putting in higher lows, that's so bullish, bros. Like, if we get a quick drop to the downside, or we get a quick wick to the downside, I will not be surprised at all, because what I'm more surprised about is that price didn't come down and settle down here near 85. So all that to say, we are in very, very bullish territory for crypto, and that is why we see a fear and greed index of 72 right now, because it is still pretty greedy. So I'll throw it back to you, Crux.
All right. I just want to read a couple more of these comments because you guys are still posting. I see Tom just said poll. I'm very neutral on Polygon. Me personally, I don't hold any. I don't think L2s are the move right now. I see JR Block showed DOT. Let's go DOT. Sui, Caspa, Ada, Crow. Tom also said DOT, Palm, Quant. Interesting. So we have some people that are in the older cryptos, but that's the cool thing about crypto is it's an open industry for us to have difference in opinions, and nobody's right exactly 100% of the time. So All right. So moving on to CoinGecko, this is a platform I personally like to use over CoinMarketCap. For me, I just like the organization of it a little bit more. And then I'm going to talk about the overall, placement where we are in the cycle, and then bring it down to what I'm buying today. So I see the market cap here of crypto sitting about $3.5 trillion. We bounced off of about 4 trillion. And I think the best way to look at crypto as a whole is as a whole instead of just Bitcoin. You know, I think the overall, especially if you invest in altcoins, the overall, market cap is more important than just the Bitcoin $2 trillion we're currently sitting at market cap. Because, Bitcoin's only making up half of the overall market cap. There's another half that still needs to be accounted for, and it does exist. So, so we're pushing 3.5 trillion down from 4 trillion, a little bit under 4 trillion. That's still very bullish as an overall, asset class. 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago at this point, we were under 2 trillion. We dropped to 1.9 trillion whenever Bitcoin dropped down to 53K. And, extreme fear was on the daily, the weekly, the monthly. Just like I said, you buy in the fear whenever Bitcoin was at 53K, and then you sell in the extreme greed whenever it was at 108K, if you're going to sell within a bull market. And now in the bear market, we dropped under 1 trillion overall market cap. So I just said Bitcoin got to 2 trillion, and I said crypto as a whole got to 4 trillion. Imagine you had the prices to buy at 25% of where they're at today. And that's why I'm a firm believer of buying in a bear market and selling in a bull market. And then lastly, so Bitcoin dominance. This is what I use to indicate where we're at within an alt season. So if Bitcoin dominance is sitting at 55%, or you can see right here, 56.5%, then that's fairly high. This late in a bull market, I think we're about 3/4 of the way through the bull market currently. We should have been much lower, according to other cycles. So, and we were much lower as of 3 weeks ago. So the Bitcoin dominance got much closer to 50%. And what happens is whenever extreme greed happens and people start feeling like they're late to the punch, then they start buying alts to try to catch up. They want to get Ethereum, Solana, XRP. They want to catch up to Bitcoin's performance because they missed the boat on Bitcoin. So what's next? The lower market cap cryptos. And then going ahead and filtering. So for filtering, I do like to use what Tshroom uses, which is CoinMarketCap, and the 30-day is pretty big. And the reason I personally choose the 30-day is I get paid once a month, right? Whenever I DCA, it's going to be once a month. And that's just how me personally, I like to dollar cost average. So for me, the most important way of doing it is to filter it by whenever I'm going to DCA. So if I wanted to invest weekly into crypto, I would filter this by the 7. And then the cool thing about this is it's all relevant to my personal portfolio. So if I filter by 7-day, right, and I see that Phantom is down 23%, according to my own portfolio, because I buy every 7 days, this is the best buy. I think it's a solid project. It's a good L1 out there. I see Ondo's, right there too. Ondo had a massive pump within the past 3 weeks, and now we see obviously a pullback coming down. So I see a ton of bullishness in these projects. You guys are shouting out, on the top of the rooftop, Sui. I've seen Kronos, Aptos, Thorchain, Chainlink, even Helium. I saw somebody mention that earlier. So you guys definitely understand the solid projects. And I hope this helps you guys.
Yeah, heck yeah. So let's do a little TA then on some of these projects. The first one I want to check out then is Aptos, because that came up. Aptos and HNT kind of came up as the most oversold, you could say, of the top 100 cryptos there. They weren't, the most, but they showed up both on the 30 and the 60-day oversold. Now, let me back up a second, because you might be sitting there being like, Tshroom, why would I buy cryptos that are oversold? Isn't the market telling us that these are bad projects? It's telling us that these are the worst projects in the last 30 days and 60 days of the top 100. Okay. So think about it like this. think about it like this. When, and bear with me here, I'm going somewhere with it. When we had all these news stories about drones in New Jersey and New York, right? There were a lot of drone stocks that shot up very, very quickly, right? No pun intended. Now, as a value investor, right, not a trader necessarily, approaching this particular piece of opportunity, the way that I would approach it is I would want to go in and see which of those drone stocks haven't popped yet, right? Because you want to buy low and sell high, okay? So by the way, I didn't play these drone stocks at all. I thought it was kind of silly. However, people definitely made money on the drone stocks if they sold for a profit. Okay, so so think about it like that. The top 100 cryptos already kind of have a seal of approval by the market. And yes, of course, some of them are stable coins, and you can put those to the side because that's not relevant for this conversation. They're not going to pump. But overall, the logic does hold. The top 100 coins, especially coins that have been around for multiple cycles like Helium, and I believe Aptos has too, they have that green stamp of approval. They have the thumbs up, but for whatever reason, the market hasn't been buying them. You want to make sure that that reason isn't a good reason, but from my vantage point, HNT and Aptos are pretty oversold, and there's not a super clear reason why. Crux, just before we jump into the TA on that, what do you think generally fundamentally about these two projects specifically that have kind of come from a quick filtering? What do you think about these? And by the way, full disclaimer, I don't hold any Aptos or HNT.
Yeah, so I actually like HNT and Aptos. I've been a miner of HNT for a while now. I used a Bobcat miner. I bought that I think in 2022 in the bear market, and it's a pretty cool idea. The whole concept of DePIN narratives is how do you bring real world infrastructure onto the blockchain? And if I'm looking at, I have unlimited internet. Let's say I have Spectrum or AT&T, whoever you use, you can lend out your data to everybody else, and this is the reason crypto was created, and especially with smart contracts. So we have peer-to-peer networks like Bitcoin, but then you also have infrastructure plays like HNT, Helium, that I've been very bullish on, where there is not a centralized entity such as Amazon Web Services that's, running 30% of the websites out there. I like plays like Arweave. You mentioned Aptos. Aptos is a very new project stemming off the roots of the Move programming language used in Sui. So if Sui wasn't to pan out, then Aptos is probably your second best bet. I always follow visionaries and teams, and Sui is where it's at in terms of being integrated into like Franklin Templeton's partnership and Facebook and all these things. Very bullish on Sui, but Aptos is up there as well. And then, to find some other trendy projects, if you want to go ahead and share my screen. On CoinGecko is what I personally use. You have a trending section right here. And this is another way you can find the hottest projects, right? This is what you have different metrics that go into something like this, like Google searches, what's being talked about on Twitter, etc. And when you find projects that have been on here from, like, Virtuals has been on this for at least 3 weeks at this point. Pudgy Penguins, it launched very recently, and we talked about it, on its launch, and it's just done well. So the reason that I'm bullish on these projects is because they're trending for long periods of time, and if something is trending for long periods of time, then typically it's a good project. Just so something else that you can throw into, your bag of what's doing well. And then lastly, I can come down here and check by the categories. So that's how you find the individual play is trending. But if I want to find what niches are trending, I can filter this by 7-day, right? I see that Virtuals protocol, we've been talking about this for well over a month in this community, and it's absolutely crushed it. And right behind it, you have AI agents, and then AI agents launch pads. So I've been on stream multiple times talking about why I'm super bullish on AI agents as a different niche, because it's new, it's innovative, and in my opinion, it's the bridge into the metaverse. I don't think we're going to be immersed immediately into it, but these new niches, they pop up within bull runs, and if you can put even 1 to 5% of your portfolio in it, Like if you put 1 to 5% into decentralized gaming last bull market in Mana, in Axie Infinity, you would have turned 1 to 5% of your portfolio probably into well over 50% of your portfolio because it outpaced everything. So I definitely say you should look for the mean or the niches that are doing well in bull markets. Here's a way to filter. We see AI starting to pick back up. That's good because everyone's asking me during the portfolio audits that I do routinely is should I continue to hold Render? Should I continue to hold Tau? What about Akash, GPU.net, IO, etc. And we see that some of these, especially whenever Bitcoin goes sideways and we reset it for the alt season, a lot of times the new niches pop up out of nowhere. And, gaming may not have taken off in 2024, but it could be 2025's year. So don't sleep on all of these categories that are doing very well. And then the best way to do it is to filter, of course.
Yep. Very, very good. All right. Well, Crux, let's do a little TA. I've got HNT up here. Crux delivered a bit of fundamentals there. HNT has been around for multiple cycles, and they migrated from Ethereum to Solana. A little bit more fundamental alpha for you there on that one. And then Aptos is new, and I'm going to show you why. Actually, you may want to be careful buying and investing in Aptos, just because at how freaking oversold it is. It is a little bit more worrying. With that said, it does hold that it fundamentally is a pretty sound project as far as blockchain and L1s go. All right, so HNT, what can you get for your money? First of all, from live price to the previous 2002 highs on this chart, which is, I believe, from BitGet, you have about a 533% that you could achieve with HNT. Okay, let's see if I can find now. Next thing I would want to look at, I'm on the weekly chart here. So 500, that's definitely worth it, right? The honey's worth the bees in this scenario. However, could there potentially be a better gain out there? And is this going to return to those highs? You would have to ask the question of dilution. Have they minted a bunch of new coins? And considering, what HNT is, it's a mining. You can mine it through what Crux described. Yes, they absolutely have minted new coins, and they use it as an incentive to get people to participate in the Wi-Fi distribution that they do, which is pretty cool, but it does end up being pretty deflationary from what I understand. Okay, but looking at this, I'm on the 1 week, and I have the Bollinger Band pulled up here. And what I'll say is that even during 2024, the price for HNT got wildly far from the midline of the Bollinger Band all the way to 51% at one point. Right, we're currently now. It also to the upside got pretty extended, right, up 117% from the midline. So that's pretty wild. I think it even got higher here, but this was 2023, 255%. Okay, so HNT has proven that it can have explosive moves, right? And even recently, from the midline of the Bollinger Band, we had a 53% move from just as recently as, when was this? November 25th, right? Okay, so there's been moves for HNT. I think this is a much stronger candidate than what we're about to see with Aptos, but it's not really that oversold on the weekly chart, right? It's not even below the 50 line. And then on the MACD, it's not below the 0 line, right? And we did just get a confirmed bear cross there on the weekly, although it's been sideways, kind of crossing back and forth for a little bit. So let's drill down to the daily chart here and turn on some of our indicators. I'm going to turn off the Bollinger Band, noticing before I do that it is currently below the Bollinger Band like Solana. And we're going to see here that it has just flipped the smart trail bearish. So it is now it's kind of starting its own journey to see how low it could go in lower price discovery now that it's kind of broken out of this uptrending line of support. How low can it go is now the question. Will it jump right back up above that support or not? So all that to say, you can potentially expect more downside movement for any of these coins, by the way, before we get to a pump. And nobody knows that better than newer folks into crypto, because your bags may not be green at this point, which is unfortunate, but I would just say hodl on to high conviction coins. All right, so what I'm noticing here on the date, this is the daily chart. Lux Algo oscillator matrix here is that the money flow is negative, right? And we're also entering the excessive seller phase. It looks like if we are in it, we've just barely tipped above that excessive level. So I would be, weary of that. I do think that when this finds a bottom, this is going to be one of the better buys in the market, just from that top 100 analysis standpoint. The MACD on the daily, let's check that out. Yeah, these MACD lines are pointing pretty sharply to the downside. The histograms have made some progress back to the upside here, signaling that bearish momentum has slowed a bit. But I think, just looking at these oscillators, that and the fact that we flipped the smart trail, the HNT does have more downside. This take profit and is at $4.66, okay? And then also you have that reversal cloud coming in at 512. So those are some potential levels to consider. We're also under a sell rating here from Lux Algo after we tested through the reversal cloud and made less progress the second run through. So that is all something to keep in mind. However, it is still a better buy relative to other cryptos that are overbought, right? As a value investor, you want to come in and buy low to sell high. So, coins like SUI and others like Athena, ETA, or ETN. Is it ETA or ETN? Now I got to find out now. Athena.
ENA,
ETA,
I think
ENA,
is Athena.
ENA.
Yeah.
Like some of these higher flyers recently, you would be buying high in anticipation of selling higher, which is at least one break of the principle of buy low, sell high. Okay, so that's HNT. Let's look at Aptos. Did you have any thoughts on that TA there, Crux, before we jump into Aptos?
No, I'm not the best TA guy.
No
TA
worries.
guy. Anyways, Tim will be back though. He'll come save us.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So with Aptos, I want to start off on the 1 week Bollinger Band like I did before. So on the 1 week, Aptos is not that far off of its midline from the Bollinger Band. It's about the same as HNT, but when we look at the oscillators on the daily, it does start to spell a different story. Before we leave the weekly, big bear cross here coming from Aptos, kind of looks like Bitcoin on the weekly. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's go to the daily. And as you can see here on the daily, these oscillators are showing pretty extreme oversold levels. Okay, so last time we were around these levels was back here early September 7th, and that around those levels we were at $5.68. Not saying it's going to go down that low, but if you look at where we were, it was kind of like what we saw with Bitcoin, where we had reached a low in a sideways channel, right? So sideways channel, we were at the lower end of that channel around September 7th before we had a fake out to the upside, and then a correction, and then a big explosion higher. That is telling me that this needs to probably stabilize a little more, meaning probably come back down a little bit more. But this one may also start to show some signs of reversal quite soon. So that's Aptos. On the MACD, you do see decelerating red histograms, which is showing that the bearish momentum is slowing. And what I'm seeing here is actually pretty encouraging on the daily. We're starting to see a curling of that MACD line. Signal line hasn't curled quite yet, but this could potentially form a bull cross that would be pretty bullish there for Aptos. So HNT, Aptos are definitely oversold for the top 100 crypto altcoins. However, neither of them are necessarily screaming buy me now. Aptos is definitely more oversold, and also when we throw on the price action concepts, we can see that it's pretty close. It's well below the equilibrium level here. And then also, if we look at HNT under the same microscope here, you can see that it's still at the equilibrium level. Okay, so again, mimicking what we saw in the oscillator matrix, the momentum has definitely shifted towards we're likely to see a resumption higher for Aptos sooner than with HNT. That is kind of my diagnoses of this situation, and that is leading us to the last. I mean, to noon here. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Crux. Now that we've kind of dug deep, we've shouted out some names. One of the names that we didn't shout out is Caspa, which, by the way, is pretty darn oversold, and I have a much higher conviction than HNT and Aptos in this name, Caspa. I'm just a bigger fan of it. I'm much more motivated to learn about it and its developments. And I will say Caspa is also a proof of work, so its price is going to look very different from the rest of cryptos because there's that mining selling incentive dynamic that is not present in most others. And then you're also on the daily chart. You also, similar to Aptos, you're seeing waning or decelerating red histograms, as well as a much more pronounced curving of the MACD line, signaling what could be a bull cross coming very, very soon to a Caspa near you. Stupid. All right, but it's also pretty oversold as well, with a reversal delta, not only just a dot, a reversal delta here, and a reversal dot on the hyperwave. So once this money flow starts to curl positive as well, this is the one. And this didn't show up until we got to the 90-day analysis here. Let me go. Let's see. Yeah, Caspa was number one loser on the 90-day. So those of you who have stayed tuned in the whole show, first of all, smash the like button, consider subscribing. But I was the one that didn't have my thing on. Well, anyway, we'll go off that. Sorry for the non-dark mode. Caspa is actually, I think, the number one crypto to buy here in anticipation of the pump. Doesn't mean it's absolutely going to pump. Tshroom is not telling you that the price of this asset is going to absolutely go higher, right? But we showed you the dynamics between Bitcoin and altcoins, and how when Bitcoin is sideways, altcoins have the potential to pump up, right? Because traders and investors are looking for more alpha, more volatility. And then we looked at a couple of different cryptos that are actually oversold, right? That they have a disproportionate chance of in being included in that big altcoin pump. Okay, so pay attention. Hopefully you've learned some things from this analysis. Does it mean that you should absolutely go out and buy HNT, Aptos, and Caspa? Not necessarily, right? If you're already overexposed to altcoins, then maybe you shouldn't be buying anything at all. Maybe you should be waiting and just being patient and hodling what you got. But if you absolutely have to, we've kind of shown you the way to think about approaching new buys for the altcoin pump that could be coming very, very soon. Crux, what are you thinking about this analysis at this point?
Yeah, I like how you brought up patience. It's pretty big. Philly Phantom actually agrees with you. He's in the comments being very active. He's been a active bro today, talking about how the social media age has given us like this false reality of what patience is, right? They expect us to have like these 6-second attention spans that TikTok has indoctrinated into us. But whenever you're, having unsure thoughts, when in doubt, zoom out. That's what I like to say. Caspa, we're sitting at just a little under 12 cents right now, but we have higher highs, higher lows in the grand scheme of what this chart looks like. And appreciate Caspa Jeremy for coming in here and bringing up Caspa as well. I told him to go ahead and follow me on Twitter. A quick little plug, but
sure.
Crux _of_ crypto. And, I just released this last night. I'm very bullish on Caspa. And for those that have been around the community, you'll know that Alpha Bros is going to be a show that launches next month, where I'm going to be hosting it. And I'm going to be dropping weekly static videos on all the coolest projects in crypto that are mid to low caps. So Investing Bros, we touch the mid to high caps here, and then Alpha Bros will touch the mid to lows. But the first video, first two will be Caspa and Ondo. Ondo because there's going to be a pretty big token unlock, and I want to make sure that all that information gets out to you guys in January. But this is my tweet from yesterday. This is the reason why I believe that Caspa is it's in its league of its own. I'm a firm believer of do not follow price action or hype. Follow the vision and the team. And I think that Caspa is going to reach their current goal of 100 blocks per second. Currently, they're doing one. You have a couple upgrades. You have Crescendo and Dagnite. And right now, you're looking at Caspa has been able to do over 1,000 TPS whenever KRC20 launched, right? And that was like a couple months ago. And that's in a single block, right? If you were to push that up to 100 blocks, that's a theoretical, or it would be a proven 100,000 transactions per second, which blows Sui and Solana out of the water. And, in terms of scalability or even the trilemma, there's three things you're looking to solve: scalable, secure, and decentralized. I'm not going to go too in depth with it, but if you follow me, you can continue reading this post on why I believe it's basically your best risk to reward at this point in a bull market, sitting at 3 billion market cap. Sometimes you have to have patience, just like these two guys said. And thank you guys for tuning in. And Tshroom, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll close out here, but before we do, I told you all how to join our free Discord, and that's very simple. All you got to do is jump down into the description of the video you're watching now, and you can access the free Discord here in this link. But this next invitation is actually to take that next step in your investing and trading career, and that is through clicking this link here. This will take you to our membership options, where you can join the ranks of folks like Jaworski, who drops alpha. There's a community of people dropping alpha, not unlike what we bring to you on the YouTube channel. But we also had this testimonial here where Kinsturbo50 said, "I want to give a shout out to Crux. I had a portfolio audit with him earlier this week. He was very informative about my picks and gave me sound advice on his options. Also, I didn't feel like he was rushing through, as he gave me an hour of his time." And then Crux responded, "Thanks, bro. I enjoy being here and helping others. I make sure that you are comfortable before finishing the audit. Glad you trust us." So absolutely. Of course, what you will not find in our Discord is financial advice. We don't dispense advice, right? We just kind of give you our opinions on different ways to maneuver and navigate this crazy market of crypto, whether you're trading or investing. If you're interested in getting a portfolio audit, getting a second opinion on what you've invested in or what you're looking to invest in, jump on down to this link where you can access our membership tiers, which include portfolio audits. So go ahead and do that. And I'll leave you all with this thought of the day. Thank you, Crux, for joining on. I'll leave you all with this thought of the day, which is we are about to hit New Year's. I encourage you all to come up with New Year's resolutions. A lot of people it's more popular these days to say, I'm not going to do a resolution. I encourage you to take the time. We're embarking on a new yearly candle here, not just of Bitcoin price, but of your life as well. It'd be good to set us some goals of where you want to see that candle rise to, whether that be to lose weight or to spend more time with family or to learn a new skill like woodworking or being an electrician, whatever it's going to be. Set those goals, and then don't stop setting goals throughout the rest of the year. Don't let the calendar tell you what to do, right? Set those goals for yourself. But what I'd like to say even more is why it's important to set goals. Because if you don't speak it into your life, you're much, much less likely to do it. You're also allowing the world and just whatever life throws at you to set goals for you. It's going to be much more beneficial to identify what you want out of life, set those goals, and pursue them. If you want to be a content creator in the crypto YouTube space, I didn't get here by just haphazardly, walking into an office and getting hired somewhere. I actually pursued it. I set those goals to learn how to trade assets, to learn media production, and that's how we arrived here. So without further ado, Crux, it's been really awesome to have you on today. We identified some altcoins that might pump as a result of Bitcoin moving sideways. We hope that you all enjoyed it. Thank you for smashing the like button and subscribing to this channel. We just hit 39,000 subs as well, so big celebration for that moment. We'll be hitting 40,000 here pretty soon as well. Make sure that you check out the links in the description for all of our partners and for our BroLux memberships. We'll see you on Monday.